Hello and welcome. I'm going to tell you about this Rick Barrett Katana, but before I do, I want you to read these important messages from no sponsors at all. They say things that are important for context and disclosure purposes. First, let's start with Akashira. It's a scene from Starry Night, it's from Yamato Badogedu, or something like that. I'll include a link in the description, but they're overall a wave theme. You can see the Fuchi and Kashira are a silver-colored wave theme overall. It also looks like the Ito is a blue silk that somebody decided to clean their fireplace before using for Aya. The Same is a large nodule Samegawa, and overall, the diamonds are well-shaped. The Tsuka is well-shaped, and everything is tight as you would expect it to be after lots of use. It's a custom sword, and, it has fittings and all that kind of stuff befitting of a custom sword. The Tsuba is made by Rick Barrett, and is made from his folded steel, and you can see some tambo or dragonfly themes in them. A simple black Ishime Saya accompanies this mount, and is very well suited. It doesn't show fingerprints all the goddamn time when you touch it, and overall it's held up very well. It doesn't show the same signs of handling as the Ito does. Winky winky nudge nudge, stop cleaning your fireplace, then practicing Kenjutsu. Here are some numbers for people that like to see them. It's a point of reference for point of balance and all of that stuff. You can pause there if you're interested in that stuff. Anyway, I'm moving on to a video section. I've shown you some digital photos that are clear and whatnot, but this is a video, and it maybe helps. I don't know, it's a video. You're watching it still, so presumably it's somewhat interesting or helpful to you. You can see what I'm talking about, though. The Ishime Saya is held up very well. The Ito is stained. It's got a Kojiri, which looks cool and matches. There's really nothing overly funny about this. It is a very well put together sword, and it looks very pretty. I kinda don't necessarily like how the silver fittings contrast with the copper Habaki and Seppa, but that's just my personal opinion, and frankly, many people would argue that I'm stupid. Many of those people live in my home, and are called my wife. I'm gonna take some liberties and move on to the pokey stabby part, or the blade, the Nagasa, or whatever it's called in Japanese. You can see that despite my poor photographer for free, the picture-y takey thing, that the hamon stands out exceptionally well. Even in bad light, this thing is so bold and so bright that I can't photograph it fucked upedly, if that's a word. Anyway, the point is that it's absolutely stunning. The lines and all of the ways and the prettiness and the lack of the English language to be able to describe the prettiness that I see in this thing. It also has a big-ass O-Kissaki, which is really nice because I have a small penis complex, and it makes me feel like a bigger man than I actually am. In coming with further dick jokes, I think it's appropriate that I name this sword Viagra because it gives everyone who loves swords a big chubby. We're gonna mosey on down to the Habaki now. You can see that it's a copper construction. I believe the Habaki was made by Rick Barrett, and the Seppa were made by Randy Black. I'm not overly fond of the color contrast, but the Habaki and Seppa are both exceptionally well made. They fit the Saya very well. There's no rattle or anything like that, and despite the fact that this blade was made years ago, it still holds snug in its mount exactly as it should. You can see in the blade as the video is going here that really it stands out so very well. I have to commend Rick Barrett on his blade smithery ability because it's absolutely stunning, this thing. It has scratches and some mild abrasions that came with it because it is a second-hand piece, but just fucking look at that. It's gorgeous. It's wonderful to see this kind of hamon. You can get lost in this more than you can oil on canvas. If that's probably too poetic. You can get lost in this just as easily you can a big set of titties, and I like titties. Maybe they're not your thing, but to me, I like this or titties are really two really awesome things I could be doing with my time. In terms of staring, of course.
I'm going to be doing some cutting with this absolutely beautiful Rick Barrett Katana. You can see nothing's messed up. I don't mind cutting with this one because it's in need of a polish already. You can see there's some scuffs along the blade. A couple things to note. There's some mild wiggle in the blade already. The Tsuka's pretty tight, but the Tsuba rattles just a little bit. Needs probably a spacer or to be tightened just slightly. The blade has some scuffs, but
Blah, 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 words. Fucking shut up and cut stuff.
Let's see how it does.
Now bear in mind I'm not trying to break the shit out of this thing, and you can see by my poor form that this blade is just fucking wow. Just it moves through shit so easily that despite the fact I look like an enormous bumbling fool, it's still just cut so easily. It's a large, stout sword, but it moved through these rolled up newspapers that were wetted and then dried slightly, effortlessly. Tatami was even easier. For some folks that are familiar, wet newspaper is a little bit more dense a target than wetted tatami. I soaked these in the same water and for the same amount of time, and the tatami just was like a hot knife through butter. Or I want to find a more colorful metaphor, but I don't know if I really can. It's a very accurate metaphor. It moved through the tatami exceptionally well. It was very easy, and I'm not putting a lot of effort behind my swing here. At least not as much as I usually do, because most of the time I swing it like a giant baseball bat. But I tried to give this katana a little bit more respect and let it do some more of the work. You can also see that I'm starting to cut some very large targets. This was about a 6-inch diameter wet newspaper with a hard wooden core, and it cut all the way through the wooden core and almost through the target. This one, I didn't make it through as far as I did before, and the target, which weighed about 15 pounds, came off, and the weight of the sword had to bear the weight, and it didn't bend at all. I was very impressed by this, as most of the time that tends to bend some shit up. On any note, the blade cut deeply, it performed very well, and this video shows the blade after I cleaned it up and cut it with it. So this is after the cutting, but, I had, cleaned it up with a little bit of Mother's Mag polish, just to remove some of the goo that's left by, the tape I use on the targets and whatnot. But you can see that the blade is really in exceptional shape. There's not a lot of scratches or dings or nicks. There's no bends, no edge roll, nothing really. The blade was like, hey, yeah, that was easy. Fuck you, and learn to use me better. You're a piece of shit, but also I'm totally awesome and fine and clean and still, new, except for a little more scratch than I rambled on there. The blade's in really great shape. The point is that I was expecting more scratches, more scuffs, maybe some dings, maybe a little bit of edge roll from cutting into a hard wooden core, maybe a little bit of a bend from fucking it up, and that didn't happen, and that's pretty awesome, frankly. I'm going to show some still photos of the blade, and you can see in these photos that one, again, the hamon pops out despite my photographical nonsensory, but two, you really don't see a lot of scratches. There were minor abrasions that happened along the blade from cutting, but you really have to get them in the right light. Now, these photos were taken after I cut with it, and I have to tilt the blade in sunlight at the right angle with my camera to be able to really see any of the cutting scratches that happened. They gradually become more evident in this photographical chain, but you can see it's the same blade in the same time period, and they illustrate how minor the scratches are and how you really have to get them in the right light to see them. Now, again, I cut newspaper, tatami mats, some water bottles, and some other nonsense, and this blade really didn't take as many scratches as other blades have. Chinese production-y type stuff. It's to be expected. I expected the blade to show scuffs, but I honestly expected it to be a lot worse than it is as shown in these photos. So again, fucking awesome. This Rick Barrett Katana test is pretty much over here, but I'm going to drone on for a little bit longer, so keep listening, I guess, if you're interested. You can see the signature on the Nakago here and some other stuff. Basically, Rick Barrett's Katana gets like 8 million stars up. It's awesome. It's well balanced, and you get a sensation when you hold it in your hand that somebody really thought about how it should feel, and it cut like a goddamn fucking demon on steroids with a giant erection, if erections supposedly made you cut better. That's the point I'm getting at. What I'd like to talk about now are Rick Barrett's other talents. These are some mokume manuki that he made me with my fucking favorite swirly mitsudomes. This is a Tsuba made of copper with a bamboo theme I used on a James Raw project in one of my earlier videos. Another Tsuba that I used on a Howard Clark katana made from his folded steel with an inlaid swirly silver mitsudome. This is an example of Rick Barrett's knives. He's an awesome knife maker as well, and this thing is fucking cool. I've had other swords that I finished by Rick Barrett as well. This is one with a pine needle theme and a different style of itomaki than you may be used to seeing. The blade had a double bohi and was, I mean, frankly, just really fucking cool and awesome and neat, and this is what it looks like, and you can see. But I don't have it anymore because I sold it because I'm dumb. This is another sword I sold because I'm dumb. It was a pet project of mine for quite some time. It was an Ishime Saya with some copper inlay pieces, and also a 1075 blade, Shinogi Zakuri style with Tsunami Ito. And this is what Rick Barrett's pieces look like before they're even done. You can see just the level of craftsmanship, the lines and attention to detail. And finally, this is a blade that I have to finish yet, another piece by Rick Barrett. You can tell I'm a little bit of a fanboy because his work is fucking awesome. You should buy some.
Hello, so I'm going to wrap this video up just with a couple additional points. One, this Rick Barrett blade still holds in the saya, doesn't fall out. I didn't have to shim it. I don't know if the blade was used a lot for Aya before, but it was used and handled quite a bit. At least that's what the handle shows. The Tsuba has a little bit of horizontal wiggle. I felt I should clarify that. It doesn't have vertical wiggle. It's just a little bit of horizontal wiggle, and I'm sure that even someone with my meager talents could remedy that with a nail set in about 5 minutes. Other than that, the blade is in really great shape. I'm thinking about having it polished and maybe having the Ito rewrapped. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but either way, it's a fantastic blade. My compliments go to Rick Barrett because he's a craftsman of very, very fine knives and blades and has a lot of skill. Randy Black, I believe, did the mount on this. It's also just great. It's held up really well over time. The diamonds are very nicely shaped. Everything is tight, and it's kind of a testament to craftsmanship because it's been handled quite a bit, and it's still holding up very well over time. The fittings and whatnot for the Fuchikashira, I believe those are cast pieces. They're very nice cast pieces. If it were, you know, aside from the contrast between copper and silver, the only other critique that I'd really have, which is again personal preference, is that I'd honestly like to see kind of all custom pieces. This is a fully custom blade with the exception of the cast Fuchikashira Kajiri. I guess I personally like to do all custom pieces. For the same price that you can get the cast fittings, you can usually find a very simple, it's not going to be as detailed, but a very simple set of kind of custom made or maybe even antique Fuchikashira and Kojiri are kind of hard to find to match, but it may be possible. That's my personal opinion though. Ultimately, this was a blade that I bought completed secondhand, and the person that made it, it was perfect for them. So it's just a subjective critique. Overall though, this is really fucking awesome. It's a great sword, and I am fortunate to own it. If you enjoyed the video, click the likey, subscribey things at the bottom. Throw in some comments, let me know what else you'd like to see. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.